Let's consider the structure of functions in JavaScript. So functions are basically a block of code that allow us to reuse operations over and over. Let's assume, for instance, that I have a website that welcomes every new visitor on the site, and I can just write a statement that prints out welcome every time there is a new visitor. I would run that and get just as many welcome. A more neater way would be to convert that statement of code to a function and execute it as many number of times as I want, and it will still give me the same result as welcoming them, but this time it is much more cleaner and I have to do lesser work as it's just repetitive code. I'm just referencing a point in memory where that particular block of code has been written. So now let's break down the structure of a function in JavaScript. First, we have the function keyword, which tells JavaScript that we want to write a function. And if you watch previous videos, you see that there are different ways to actually define functions, like with the arrows. But formally, we have the function keyword to tell JavaScript that wants to write a function. Then we have a name to tell our piece of code that this is the name of the function I want to execute. And as you can see on line 7, it is that name that we will call along with parentheses to actually execute the code. Then we have curly braces that tells our function that this is the limit of your operation. Everything within the curly braces is that block of code. We can have as many things as we want. As long as it is within the curly brace, it is considered as part of this particular function. Then we have the body of the function, which is anything that is within our curly brace. And typically a function will always have a return statement because our function is expected to execute to give a result, and that will only happen with a return statement. Logging is just logging whatever I want to the console, but our function should evaluate to a return value, and will typically have a return value to denote that our function has executed a piece of code. Lastly, we'll typically have parameters and arguments. For instance, let's say I want my code to add two numbers together, two numbers that is A and B. And I'm just going to go ahead and return A plus B. Now if I go ahead and console.log my function, I should get the result of A and B, which is quite simple. But what if I don't want to add code the values of A and B? What if I want it to be dynamic? For instance, no matter how many times you run this function, the result will always be 7. But what if I want to perform different arithmetic operations like a calculator? Then I can pass in my parameters. I can say that, okay, I expect num1 and num2. Then when calling the function, I would pass the arguments that I expect. Let's say I want to add 5 and 6. And I will also say that, okay, these are the numbers I want to add together. I want to add num1 and num2. In this case, I have made my function dynamic, in which I expect some arguments from the user. I can add different numbers together. This is the function of arguments and parameters in a JavaScript function.